Mr. President, over the last 4 years, the Biden administration put our energy security on a dangerous trajectory. The administration sharply restricted oil and gas development. It threatened the closure of existing power plants with burdensome new regulations, even as our electric grid struggled to keep up with demand. President Biden attempted to force the widespread adoption of electric cars, despite the incredible strain that would place on our already shaky power grid. And that's just to start with. The administration unleashed a veritable blizzard of Green New Deal regulations as it attempted to push through its far-left agenda. Mr. President, the American people called for a new direction this past November, and the Trump administration and the Republican majorities in Congress have wasted no time getting to work to provide relief from burdensome regulations, especially when it comes to energy. Last month, the EPA announced 31 significant deregulatory actions. Among these are actions addressing the Biden administration's Good Neighbor Rule and Clean Power Plan 2.0. Both of these regulations were designed to effectively force fossil fuel-powered power plants to close, a dangerous goal at a time when we are already running low on the electricity we need to meet demand. And preventing these Biden-era rules from going into effect removes a significant threat to our energy supply. Farmers, ranchers, and other landowners can also breathe more easily knowing that the Obama-era Waters of the United States rule, which the Biden administration attempted to resurrect, is being revised. The so-called WOTUS rule would have given the federal government sweeping jurisdiction over most water features on private property, including things like irrigation ditches, ephemeral streams, and even prairie potholes. I know farmers and ranchers in my state of South Dakota would have appreciated a seat at the table before the Biden administration resurrected this harmful policy. And I'm pleased that the Trump administration is committed to consulting with stakeholders for their input on an alternative clean water rule. Mr. President, the EPA is also now working to terminate the Biden electric vehicle mandate. The switch to electric vehicles that the Biden administration envisioned was unwelcome, unworkable, and unaffordable for a lot of Americans. And as I said, threatened to put an incredible new strain on our already creaky electric grid. I know South Dakotans were concerned about the loss of choice and about being forced into electric vehicles that aren't suitable for the long distances and bitter cold of life on the Great Plains. So the elimination of this mandate is welcome news in South Dakota, as I'm sure it is for a lot of Americans around the country. Mr. President, here in Congress, we're joining the President in his deregulatory efforts, and Republican majorities in the House and the Senate have spent the last several weeks working to rescind burdensome energy regulations using the Congressional Review Act. President Trump has already signed 2 CRA resolutions into law, one eliminating the marine archaeology rule that targeted offshore energy development, and the other stopping implementation of the Biden tax on natural gas. Last week, the Senate passed another CRA resolution to block a Biden-era regulation on walk-in freezers and coolers. This rule, part of the Biden administration's climate agenda, would have heaped additional cost on small businesses like restaurants, butchers, convenience stores, and others. And later this week, I expect the Senate to vote on another energy-related CRA resolution, this one to block a Biden administration rule that would take certain gas water heaters off the market by 2029. This rule would not only increase the cost of water heaters for American homeowners, it would also imperil U.S. manufacturing jobs. One manufacturer has said the rule could force a shutdown of its $70 million plant in Georgia. The resolution to repeal this burdensome rule received bipartisan support in the House, and I hope our Democrat colleagues will join Republicans in opposing this regulation. Mr. President, the impact of these regulations is felt across industries by American workers and American businesses. They're felt by Americans who work in the energy sector, by manufacturers, by small business owners, farmers, ranchers, and the list goes on. And regulatory burdens can be especially tough on smaller businesses, sometimes leading them to sell or shutter their operations. Those who stay in business often have to raise prices to stay afloat. And whether it's through higher utility bills or higher costs at the grocery store or for other goods, it's the American people who ultimately bear the cost of these rules. And that's why this is such an important issue for Republicans. It's why we're working hard to eliminate these and many other regulatory burdens. And we will continue working to deliver regulatory relief for the American people. Mr. President, I yield the floor, and I suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.